Hello, everybody. I'm Hilary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. In this episode, I'm talking with Sam Oakes, the founder and CEO of Atova International. Sam and I met in 2017 while volunteering for Raleigh, Tanzania, a British nonprofit. I was there as a photographer, and Sam held a leadership position. Over 3 months, we traveled to project sites throughout Tanzania where volunteers work to build toilets or train entrepreneurs. Spending so much time on the road and in the field allowed us to connect deeply and develop a friendship that has continued ever since. When Sam shared his dream of starting Atova International and asked me to join the advisory board, I said yes immediately. I've always believed in Sam's vision and the potential he brings to any mission. Today, I'm excited to share his inspiring journey, insights, and the beginning of this transformative nonprofit, Atova International. Welcome to Driftwood Conversations.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Sam. I'm the CEO and founder of Atova International. Atova is a new generation of not-for-profit. So we're looking at not just delivering charitable work, as you know, there's thousands of charities doing incredibly worthwhile and great work around the world. But what we're trying to do is to shift the paradigm a little bit towards not just international development, but personal development as well, because we recognize the power of an inspired individual to have a positive impact on the world. And that's certainly like how I got into this sector personally. So a lot of our programs, they focus on delivering international development, but also on inspiring personal development in the volunteers and staff that take part in our programs.
What brought you to Indonesia?
Initially, I came to Indonesia working for another charity. I'd recently left the army and I'd just finished sort of volunteering with Raleigh International, which obviously that's where I met you. And I was looking for a new opportunity to kind of keep developing the skills that I'd learned with Raleigh. I wanted to work in the charitable sector because I knew that that was a way that I could do some good in the world. So I found an opportunity with a grassroots charity in a village called Bukit Lawang in North Sumatra, where I could be an operations manager there. And that's kind of what brought me here initially to do that role.
So you're British. You're a British citizen.
I am, yeah.
Let's go back now. Let's talk about how you got involved in nonprofits. Because when you got out of school, and I don't know what school you went to, but you got out of school and you went straight into the military. You had hopes of staying in that. Am I right?
That's correct, yeah. So, I mean, from a very early age, I think from about 14 or 15 years old, my kind of hopes and dreams were set on the military career. That's because I joined the Air Cadets in the UK, which is like Royal Air Force cadets for kids. I just loved it. It gave me confidence. It gave me purpose and sort of a bit of self-discipline. So I'd set my sights on a career in the military from that point onwards. And so after high school, I went into college. So instead of doing my A-levels, which is our kind of 16 to 18-year-old education in the UK, I went to college and did a military course. It was a uniform public services course, which kind of even more solidified in me the desire to serve in the military. And after I graduated from there, I then joined the army, a unit called the BUOTC, which stands for Birmingham University Officer Training Corps. And it's basically a unit that's focused on training the next generation of officers in the British Army. And that's really where I got my first taste of real leadership. And I kind of realized that I might be able to actually inspire other people to realize their potential and realize their capacity for doing great things. And, you know, this might be something that I could do.
And then we met when you were volunteering for Raleigh.
Yeah.
When did that happen? What year and how old were you then?
That was 2017. So I would have been about 23 or 24, I think. So this would have been just after I left the army. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew is I wanted to do good. I wanted to try and make the world a better place. And I heard about Raleigh, I think, online and applied to be a volunteer. And then I think somewhere in the correspondence with the recruitment team, they realized that I'd got this experience with the Officer Training Corps and all this leadership experience. So they said, oh, we've got this position as team leader. Do you want to apply for that? So I applied for team leader. And that's kind of how I initially started in Rally as a team leader for the first 3 months. And I think we met after Rally had offered me a job as a deputy operations manager. So that would have been like the second sort of 3-month placement.
You left, and where did you go from there? Well, you were still with Rally, but you went to a different country. We met in Tanzania.
Yes, yeah. So we met in Tanz, and I think I stayed there for about a year with Rally. I went home. I think I was at home for Christmas, and I remember getting a phone call from one of the international team in London to say like, "Hey, we need an operations manager in Nepal. Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, absolutely!" So headed up to Nepal early the following year to basically go and be a deputy operations manager in the field base in Kathmandu. So I think I did another 6 months there.
And you were 23 years old. Did you have family support?
Yeah, I'm incredibly blessed with my family, with my parents. They've been incredible throughout this entire sort of self-discovery journey over the last like 10, 15 years. And yeah, they've supported me 100%, to the point where, even if they think I'm making a bad decision, they allow me to make that bad decision so that I can learn from it. They're incredible parents. They've supported me. They've bailed me out in times, they've been great. Yeah.
How did all that take you to where you are now? And you're 30 years old right now. You just got married about a year ago. Has it been?
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
The marriage, this was
What's your wife's name?
Neural. And I actually met her when working for a charity in the village of Bukit Lawang. She also worked for that charity as a teacher. I mean, I was just blown away from day one. I mean, it's yeah, I don't want to sound kind of cliche, but it really was, this is a person who has been working from the age of like 9 or 10 to pay for her own education. The family's not a wealthy family. They've grown up in poverty. So instead of kind of, having that victim mentality that's so common these days, it was like, okay, roger that, I've got to get a job. And so she's working before and after school to make the money to pay for school. She taught herself how to speak English. Like the only way we were able to communicate is because she taught herself how to speak English from YouTube and videos and stuff like that. It's just, this is the caliber of woman that my wife is. So she's a constant sort of source of inspiration, and she keeps me pushing hard because, that's what she does. So we met about 5 years ago. In a few months' time, it's 5 years we've been together. Neural has been a catalyst in the creation of Atova International. She's really been a big part in the formation of this charity and everything that we're doing.
So let's go back and tell me the role model. How does Atova make money? How has it set up itself? You're registered both in Indonesia and Great Britain. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. So we're a UK registered charity. We're also an Indonesian registered charity. In Indonesia, it's called a yayasan. We initially formed as a group of kind of like-minded individuals, one of which is your good self on the board of advisors. We have an international advisory board, which is, all these incredible people that I've met over the years in all these different roles. We've got people that I met in college, people I met in the military, people like yourself that I met in Rally, on this team. So initially when we were putting together the idea, I knew that I wanted to draw on all these amazing people that I'd worked with before. And that's kind of where we created this advisory board. And then we started looking at, and this is something you were involved in, we started looking at the philosophy behind the charity, because I knew that I didn't want it to just be another charity that just churns out volunteer placements and ultimately is just another one of those ones that there's hundreds of. I knew I wanted it to be a little bit special. So the whole thing has been built around a philosophy and an idea, which, I shared with you in the early sort of design stages, which we call the 3 pillars.
What are those 3 pillars?
With the 3 pillars, it really came from an idea that the responsibility of leadership. And what I mean by that is I've had a lot of experience in a lot of different jobs. I've been very fortunate. And what I've realized is that in the UK, certainly, I don't know what it's like internationally, but when you're in school and education, you are given this idea that you are amazing, you are special, you could do anything you want as long as you put the work in. And the teachers support you and, they tell you, go out there and achieve your dreams. And then when you get into your job, your first job, it's very much like, we're not interested in your dreams or your ideas. We just want you to do this, 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 and then go home and we'll pay you. And that can be really kind of crippling for someone's kind of passion and drive, this feeling of purpose. And, I met people, I won't name drop this company, but I was working for a company and I met people who And they said, I joined as a temp 18 years ago and I'm still here because they're just kind of working on minimum wage and then all of that's going to rent. And they'd never really gone out and realized their own potential because the company, they don't really want that. They want these drones that just do the job, that check in, do the work and go home. When I was setting up Atova, I knew that I wanted leadership responsibility. I wanted to make sure that everything the organization is built around is around the people involved. And how can we help them to be the best possible version of themselves? And that is what the 3 pillars is all about. So the 3 pillars are mastery of the body, mastery of the mind, and mastery of the spirit. 3 pillars which encompass a broad range of things. But essentially, we work on all 3 of these pillars every day at Atova in every individual so that we can not just do our work day to day, but also improve as a human being day to day as well.
We're going to go back to this, but I think we need to talk about what your days look like. How is Atova set up? Do you have international volunteers right now? You do have Indonesian children that you're teaching and taking out into the Ranger program. Describe that also.
Yeah, so let me give you a bit of background. So, I mean, we've got these 2 programs. We've got the Empowerment Through Education program, which is focusing on the delivery of quality education to people who don't have access to education, be that through like logistical access, like it's too far away, or through financial access. You know, you have to pay for education in Indonesia. So the poorer portion of the community then can't come to school because they don't have the money. What we do is we send teachers out to rural communities to teach in the villages to kind of overcome that hurdle. And that's the Empowerment Through Education program in a nutshell. We're trying to really aim for one of 2 things, either access to higher education as a result of the learning that they get in our program, or access to employment as a result of the learning that they get in our program. So that's the ETE program, Empowerment Through Education. And then, as you mentioned, we've got a Ranger program, which is very unique as far as I know, which is the Atova Ranger Training Corps program. This is essentially a youth organization. We're basically trying to set up the next generation of jungle rangers to protect the tropical rainforest here. And we're doing that over a 3-year period. And it's a curriculum that I've been working on designing in collaboration with the board of advisors. The idea being that we train these young men and women up over a course of 3 years. And then when they graduate from school, we employ them as rangers who then go in and protect the tropical rainforest and the endangered animals that live there. So those are the kind of programs. In terms of day to day, what it's like, we essentially in the mornings, it's working in what we call field base, which is our kind of hub of operations here in Indonesia. And then it's all the administrative, the preparation, the planning, the risk assessing, all of that stuff that has to be done. And in the afternoons is when we deploy out to the communities in teams of 2, and we go out and we deliver the program.
Who's your group?
So my wife and I lead the team here in Indonesia, Nurul and I. She works as our senior program leader. Then we also have program coordinators. These are young Indonesian staff who, you know, they're graduated from university and they've applied for a job with us. They're helping us. And we've got Mady Olawan and Ina at the moment, who are our 3 coordinators. And they basically deliver the programs with us.
Where's your funding coming from?
So our model is set up, at the moment we've got some private funding, which helped us get started. And we also, initially when we first started, we self-funded. So my brother was very kind and he supported us off the back of his savings and anything that I had, I put into it as well. We also were very fortunate to get some private funding from someone else that we'd met over the years. The model now is set up such that we have international volunteers, and what we do is we ask our international volunteers to fundraise a volunteer fee. And what this does is it covers their costs whilst they're in Indonesia and covers the costs of the programs. When the international volunteers come out, they're essentially supporting the operations that we deliver. We initially started in June 2022. However, it wasn't until August 2023 that we actually started delivering the programs. And that time period was all the kind of registering the charity, risk assessing. We call it community recce, but it's essentially like visiting the communities, meeting with village leadership, hosting focus groups about the programs, all of that essential prep work that goes before you deliver an international development program.
Did people welcome you right in? How were you welcomed in in the village. You're only in one village right now.
We're actually delivering our program in 10 communities at the moment. So we're in 10 villages right now across 2 different regions, which is great. So we're in a region called Tanah Karo, which is the Karo Highlands. It's the homeland of the Karonese tribe. The people here are incredibly welcoming. They've been fantastic. When we first were selecting a location to start the charity, we actually visited lots of different places around Sumatra. One of the things that drew us to Tanah Karo was how friendly the people were and how kind and welcoming they were. But also the other factor was that we were the first international charity to come to the region. There was a much higher demand for the programs that we were offering, whereas just to the north there's a region called Lankat and they've got over 200 charities working there. We had to look at where our limited resources could make the most impact.
Are you getting international volunteers?
We've had a few. We actually had a few from the US in the summer come out and join us. They did what we call the Atova Citizen Service, which is our 6-week placement. And they absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. Really nice couple. But it is incredibly difficult at the moment to bring in international volunteers. Part of the issue is a financial one. You know, it's a long way to go. You've got flights, you've got vaccines, things like that. Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
Have you had British volunteers?
Not yet. No British ones. Yeah, we're all working very hard, but this is where, you know, it comes down to the culture that we've built at Atova. And the guys, you know, we've got this ethos of kind of, we don't stop when we're tired, we stop when we're done. You know, like we're here. Everyone kind of sees themselves as a public servant. We're here to serve the local community. You know, that gives us drive to keep working. So sometimes, yeah, it's a long day. Sometimes we've got 12-hour days or whatever, but we do what we need to do to make sure that these people get education.
So in both programs, you can't do them with such a small crew. You can't do them the same day, can you?
Basically work in pairs. So we've got 2 guys go out on the education program and 2 go out on the ranger program. Typically, we would teach 2 classes a day in 2 different locations. So there's a lot of like driving. There's a lot of, you know, getting to the community, setting up.
How is that feeling for you? How do you feel every day when you wake up?
I feel incredibly grateful and privileged. I'm so lucky to be able to do this for a living. You know, every day I get to go and help people. I mean, how cool is that? And what's really a privilege is how much these guys that we've got on the team have really taken to heart our philosophy and our culture, and they're living the Atova ethos, which is amazing. And they inspire me every day to push harder. You know, just to give you an example, you know, we've got the first pillar, mastery of body, is all about like, you know, looking after the body so that we can do a good job and live our lives well. And these guys text me the other day on the weekend to say, I've just done mastery of body. I've ran my first 10K in my life. Can't believe I've done it, you know. And that inspires me. And then I think, okay, I'm going to go and do something. I'm going to challenge myself, you know. So we keep pushing each other and it's great.
So how do you have time for that, though? I mean, you're working every day. And if you're not out there in the field, you're working on the mechanics or the organization behind the work.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I work 7 days a week at the moment, but that's only just because for me it's not work. It's a passion. I love it. You know, so it's not really a chore for me. The guys, so we've set it up so that everybody works a 4-day week, so everyone gets a 3-day weekend at Atova, because I strongly believe that if you have more time off to spend with your family, your friends, a happier workforce is a more productive workforce, and that's been demonstrated day in and day out at Atova. These guys, they rock up early every day. They're super happy. They're super driven. They do loads and loads of work. They stay late every day and they get the job done. Other companies and charities might do it in 5 or 6 days. They do it in 4 days. You know, it's working really well. I take it very seriously, making sure that they get enough downtime. So 3-day weekends is something that I aim for.
How are you doing financially right now? I mean, there must be enough to pay everybody and have some in yourself. I know that it's less expensive over there than it is in Britain or here in the States.
Yeah, for sure. That is a big factor. The currency exchange. You know, everything's cheaper in Indonesia, which is helpful. We're on a tight budget, but that hasn't hindered us yet. If anything, I look at it as a positive because, you know, if you've got a huge budget, then you can just roll out these programs without too much thinking. And actually, it's the thinking and the delay and the time that is what makes the programs much more high quality, much better in terms of what we actually deliver. So in a way, it's good that we've got really limited budget and we have to really think about where our resources are spent. Sometimes I have to dip into my salary to cover the other guys' salaries, but that's something I'm very happy to do because this is the kind of responsibility of a leader. You do what needs to be done to make sure the ship keeps sailing, right?
That's pretty unique right now. That attitude is not being mirrored around the world. Where did that come from? Who instilled that? Was that family? Do you feel like you were just born with that?
I don't think I was born with it. I think, I'm a firm believer that leaders are made, they're not born. I had the privilege of working with some incredible leaders in the British Army, and the self-sacrifice, they've got this idea that, the leader is the first man in. The leaders, they never say, go do this. They say, follow me. We're going to do this, So that kind of instilled in me this idea that if you are the leader, you're the one who goes first. You're the one who puts everybody else first. That's what makes you a leader is putting your team first. Yeah, it's a privilege.
Do you have a spiritual or religious base behind your feelings and thinking?
Yes, is the short answer. I've explored a lot of faiths over the years. My wife is Muslim. I've explored Islam. I grew up in a Church of England, the Christian faith. And when I was living in Kathmandu, I really got into Buddhism as well. What I've learned is that every religion has some really positive lessons to teach. There's no religion that's totally bad. And I think that I would say I'm a very spiritual person, but I wouldn't align myself with any one religion.
It's a greater force.
Yeah, I think there's an energy, there's an energy field that's what's driving creation in the universe, without getting too metaphysical. And that energy resides within each of us. And so in some weird way, we have creation inside us. And this life is about connecting with that creation, connecting with that spark inside, and seeing our true nature if we can.
It's refreshing. I mean, when we met, we were working for Raleigh. We were driving around Tanzania and we had long conversations. And it was amazing, and we picked up a friendship, and it's still very strong. You're unique, you know that. There aren't many people that have had that need and drive to change the world, to go out there and be a force for good. And right now, we can really see a division popping up. And not to get into any specifics, but how are you feeling? Have you felt any pushback? Any group, any government having a hard time with what you're doing?
There's no one group or individual that's got a personal problem with what we're doing, and my brother, who's, my partner in this endeavor, he'll contest to this, but it's incredibly hard to do good, that everything is blocking you. My brother, he set up his own company. He's running his own company in the UK. And when compared to the process for setting up a charity, it's incredibly easy. If you want to make profit and look after yourself and become rich, no problem. Go ahead. If you want to help other people, we need to check every single thing 1,000 times. It took us almost a year just to register the charity. The challenge with that is you can't access funding without being registered. That's why we ended up self-funding with our own savings for the best part of a year, because we wanted to get started. We've got this project. We've got this amazing team. We're ready to go. But until we get that piece of paper and that charity number, no one wants to sort of support us. And it was an incredible roller coaster and 100 hurdles to jump over to become a charity. And had we gone down the route of becoming a company, there's a lot of these adventure companies that are for profit. It would have been really simple. It would have been really easy. But we've been challenged from day one to make this happen. It's tough, yeah. It's not an easy job. I mean, I still get people back home who are like, oh, I don't want to donate to charity because it's just all going to a rich CEO who gets a great salary. And I can contest that that's not the case. So it's difficult. It is difficult, yeah.
What about internally, personally? I mean, keeping with the Driftwood conversations, they're talking to people, some of them that are older than you, that have really experienced life and the ebbs and flows and the tough times and the good times. And what comes out is this resilience, this force within them to just love the world. You're much younger, but you still, I'm sure you've had obstacles and moments
Yeah.
that have been difficult. What keeps you going?
without sounding too strange, it's almost a kind of like spiritual drive, like there's so much negativity in the world. It's everywhere. You watch the news on any platform and it's all negative. There's wars, there's conflicts, there's fighting, there's crazy things happening in politics, which I won't get into. And it's super easy to get depressed, and to get really down about where the world is going. But that for me just is like kindling on the fire. It's like, you really have to do some good. We've got to fight back. We've got to be on the other side of this. We've got to push back. The more negativity I see, the more I'm like, I have to do more. I've got to keep going, because if I don't, who's going to do it?
I'm right with you on that one. The more I see happening here, of course, too, but it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to not get sucked into the negativity and move forward without negativity, to combat the negative, not with a Pollyanna, everything's going to be okay, but with compassion, empathy. And that is kind of the pillars. That's what we talked about when you were creating this. Can you say more of what that is for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's I can give you an example. I mean, so when we started the charity, we self-funded. But what I don't tell a lot of people is that we actually reached a point where we ran out of our own money. And this was just before we got this windfall, we got this support from this private funder. And there was a time my wife and I, we were sitting in this restaurant. We were sharing a portion of like instant noodles, and we were scared that we wouldn't be able to pay for it. We're at that point where we put everything we had into this. And we were like, I don't know what more I can do. I've given it everything I can, Thankfully, there was a plan, something was going to happen, and we finally got some support, and we got a charity number, and it all kind of turned around. But there's been quite a few points like that where we've been in a position where we're like, I'm not sure what else I can do to keep pushing forward, because there's the force of bad is so strong, right? And to tackle that is exhausting. It's also like these questions come up in your mind where it's like, should I just let someone else worry about this? It would be easy for me to go back to the UK and get a job with a good salary and just sit comfortably in a nice house on a 9 to 5 and worry about just myself. And I'd probably be a lot safer and a lot more financially stable. Every time I ask myself that question, there's this fire inside that says, hell no, like, we're not doing that. We've got to keep going. But it's an internal battle. It really is. There's this constant battle, and you have to win that battle every day.
That's the key to me. It's that internal battle. It's not outside. You don't make villains. The world will do what the world does. There's always gravity will pull everything down, but it's that internal. And how do you work through it? Do you have anything? Well, maybe it's your mind body work. You exercise, you go out into the forest. What is that like for you?
I've really internalized the pillars, and I've seen a real result from it. My wife and I, we exercise quite regularly now. We look after ourselves, and it transfers over. So when you are able to suffer physically, to go through physical discomfort during exercise, it transfers to mental discomfort as well. So when you're in that stressful situation, you can kind of think, I've been through worse. I've done worse. Right now I'm not physically suffering, so I can handle this. So these things, they do support, and they do help. And we really try to practice them every day. The 3 pillars to kind of help us get through. Yeah.
Go over that again. So it's the physical, mental. Describe that.
The physical is all about this recognition that our body is kind of like a gift. To have a body, to have a healthy body is an incredible privilege. Some people don't. And it's kind of like, if you're given this incredible gift and you don't look after it, it's completely wrong. It doesn't sit right. So it's kind of our responsibility to look after this body, but also to elongate the amount of time we have on this earth and the amount of good we can do. If we look after our body, we have longer on the earth, and that means we can do more good before we move on to wherever we go next, right? So that's kind of the principle of mastery of body. When we come on to mastery of mind, it's really built around this idea of being a eternal student. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I finished school, I don't want to learn anything, I'm going to relax. Or the other flip side is, I'm too old to learn something new, I'm just going to sit where I am and do what I'm doing. So this idea is that as long as you are conscious, as long as you are alive, you're capable of learning something new, learning a new skill, of growing as a human being. And that's what the mastery of mind is all about. It's just constant growth. And Nurul and I, we set mastery of mind tasks for our team on a kind of weekly basis. And that's not always related to the work they're doing. Sometimes it's related to their personal goals, you know. So these guys might be like, I really want to learn Italian. So we'll be like, okay, we're going to find an online course for Italian. We're going to send them the link. We're going to get them on that. And we're going to keep them accountable to their goals, because accountability is super key. So that's kind of mastery of mind. And then we've got the last pillar, which is mastery of the spirit. And this one gets misinterpreted quite a lot. People kind of think, oh, you're talking about the soul, you're talking about religion, you know. It's not that at all. When we talk about mastery of spirit, it's about finding within yourself that thing, that reason that you have to get out of bed and keep living. You know, what is your passion? What is your purpose for being on this earth? And that's what mastery of spirit is all about, is finding what that thing is. And when the guys ask me, I always say a great indicator of whether or not you've found that thing is if after you have done something, after you've done like a day of work or you've done a day of an activity, you have more energy than you had when you began. You found that thing, because that thing gives you energy instead of taking it away from you. So that's kind of what mastery of spirit's all about.
It's pretty powerful stuff, Sam. I mean, you didn't just know this. This has been developing particularly since you started Atova, am I right?
For sure. I mean, since way before that, I mean, I think it's something that's been sort of coming together in my mind for the best part of 10 years, really. Just haven't put it together until recently, you know.
Where do you see Atova going now? What's your next step? What do you need to do?
We need to get to a point where we're sustainable. And what I mean by that is, you know, right now, a lot of my time is focused on making sure we don't run out of money. And that's the sad kind of truth of a lot of charities at the minute. What we need to do is reach a point where we can focus on the work that we're here to do. So providing the education, protecting the endangered species in the jungle, rather than worrying, are we going to have a job next year or the year later, you know? So that's kind of the focus for the next 6 to 12 months, really, for myself. But the hope is that we can build a community here of young men and women who really believe in themselves and start to realize that they can be a lot more than they are. You know, these guys that work with me right now, a lot of them, when they joined us, had barely any English. Now they're pretty much fluent, and that's in 6 months. The guys had very little teaching experience, and now we actually teach in the University of North Sumatra. So we do seminars at the university. We're teaching in these 10 communities across the area. What they've achieved in 6 months is incredible, like really incredible. And it's for them, it's for the team, it's for the, what I call the Atovans, you know, the family. That's what keeps me going. I do it for them. And so what I want to see is that family grow. I want to see more people realize their potential. We actually have that as our motto, is that Sadari Potentiamu, which translates as realize your potential. And that's kind of our motto at Atova.
Wow, I'm kind of stunned. I mean, we've talked before and I've seen this build, but then we don't talk. And I'm surrounded by so much going on in America right now that is so negative and so difficult, and people fighting with each other and not supporting each other. It's all me, me, me. Do you have a strong, well, you're doing it all, aren't you? The strong media presence. How are you getting the word out there? Who are you going to? What can you do?
We're on social media, so you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're on, or X, I should say. We're on all of those. We also have our website. Yeah, we're doing like regular posts a couple of times a week, posting about updates about what we're doing. You know, we're trying to get the word out there. We're on Google as well, on the Google search engine, but I think we're on like page 25 or something like that, so it's quite far down, you know. But you know, if you search atova.org, you can find us, you know.
What's your next step?
So next year we're looking at, well, we've got 3 new programs in development right now. We've got a health and fitness program, we've got a community development program, and we've also got an entrepreneurship program in development at the moment. So the hope over the next sort of 12 months is that we can start to open some of these new programs. I'd like to expand to some more communities because we're not even scratching the surface. I'll give you one example. So one of the districts we work in is called Kutubulu district. There are 17 communities in Kutubulu district and only 1 school. So a lot of the villages that are far away from that school, they just don't go to that school. And, this is a challenge. So what I'd really like to do is reach some of the more remote communities that we haven't reached yet. But that requires more staff, more volunteers, more manpower. What we really need is volunteers to help us out.
Your classes are primarily English, or are you teaching other things?
Yeah, so at the moment, the Empowerment Through Education program is English as a second language, but that's a starting point. We're looking to expand to other core subjects, so like mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics. But at the moment, we're starting with ESL, and we're using that as a springboard to access education and employment. In Indonesia, there's a huge, huge difference between what you can get as a teacher and then what you can get as a teacher if you speak English. So just having the language massively improves your opportunities in Indonesia. A lot of the Indonesian universities are teaching in English as well. We've started with ESL, English as a second language, but we are looking to expand to other subjects as well.
So in these remote villages, are these people able to use English?
So it's actually remarkable. So some of these communities, they don't even speak the Indonesian national language. They only speak their tribal language, Karenese. So yes, so they can use it. A lot of the time where they use it is online. So learning online, a lot of courses now, they do it online because people can't afford to travel. So they can access these online courses using the English that they learn from us to get more education, which is really what it's all about. There's also a growing tourism industry in North Sumatra. So like communicating with tourists and visitors and stuff is something that they can do.
What about the customs of these tribes? They're remote tribes. So I don't know how much the world has come in and affected them. Do you ever get anybody pushing back that why English? You're losing the customs, you're losing their origin.
Yeah, we do. It's never the Indonesians. It's normally people back home that are giving the pushback. In a short answer, why English is because in order to have unity, you've got to have understanding. And English is already the lingua franca, the second language of the world. So it makes logical sense that that is the language that we expand and we spread. We are very, very careful not to push it as kind of like this colonial idea of like, we're going to teach you the right way to live. That's absolutely not what we're about. Half of our team is Karenese, so they're part of the tribe themselves. So we're really supporting the local tribal customs. Since I've been in Caro, I've been to, it's called Kerja Town, which is a Karenese festival that they do every year. So I've seen the traditional dancing and we've got involved in all of their ceremonies and stuff. So we really try to immerse ourselves in their culture. We're not trying to push British culture on anyone. We're really looking at the English language in its simplest form as a means of global communication. We want to bring people together, and to do that, we've got to understand each other.
Again, that's great. I listen to you and it's like, where did you come from? Can we clue you to come to this at such a young age? It's a privilege. It's a privilege. That's something that comes from deep inside you. And you've fostered it, you've nurtured it. That's what we forget, that I think it's in many people, as long as they've not been totally beaten up as children, that goodness, that need and desire, not even need, but desire to give and to understand other cultures, other people. That's what I'd like to see with this podcast, connection. If we connect with each other, we're not afraid of each other.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. Yeah. It's overcoming fear through understanding, and that's where the language comes in. You've touched on something very close to my heart there, which is this idea of this internal spark, like there's lots of different ways you can look at it. You can look at it as like a soul. You can look at it as a spirit, but I choose to visualize it as a spark, like a bit of creation inside me. And everybody's got that. However you choose to believe, whatever the energy force is that animates your body, whatever you choose to believe that is, you've got it. And that is there, and it's beautiful, and it's perfect, and it's part of this universe. And you have within yourself the capacity to really make a huge difference. And the problem is that people get so beaten down with negativity that they start to forget that. It's like so many people I know honestly don't believe they have it in themselves to do anything. They're like, what can I do? What can I do? I'm just me. I'm little old me. But every one of us is capable of doing something. And I hope that's my dream for Atova, is that if I can just inspire one or two people to realize they've got it in themselves, that's enough. That's what I'm here to do.
When you get excited about life, and it doesn't need to fill anybody else's expectations.
Being you in your truest form, isn't it? And that in itself is enough. It kind of allows the people around you to do the same. You don't have to preach it or push it or force it. It's just practice it, live it.
Well, it's pretty exciting. But I'll put all the links to Atova, and so people can reach out. Is there anything else you want to say to kind of finish up?
The only thing I'll say to my younger self, but also to anyone who's in a similar situation to what I was, and that is, if you are sitting there thinking that the world is going in a bad way and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're feeling down and you're feeling like you can't make a difference, all I will say to that is you absolutely can. And it's in those dark moments where you find the spark. If it's already light, you can't see it. You can only see the spark in the darkness. And so, I just want to say to people who are suffering, I've been there, it sucks, and you will get through it, and you'll find your spark. And I hope that listening to my crazy ramblings on this podcast helps you to find it.
Me too. Thank you for joining this episode of Driftwood Conversations. Talking with Sam reminds me of the extraordinary impact one person can have through vision, determination, and a desire to create change. Sam's life and Atova are a testament to what's possible when we align passion with purpose, focusing on empowering communities and individuals to build brighter futures. If Sam's story has inspired you, I encourage you to take the next step, whether it's donating, volunteering, or simply sharing Atova's mission with others. Together, we can amplify their work and make a tangible difference in individuals' lives and the health of our planet. You can find links to Atova's website and social media in the episode notes. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations that explore the transformative power of connection, resilience, and hope. Until next time, I'm Hilary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. Let's keep discovering the beauty and strength in what connects us.